the Weather Network. We got our full team now. We got Nicole Karkic in studio. She's going to walk you through the forecast. We've got Matt Hamill outside our Weather Network studios. You can really hear that wind, can't you? But we'll start things off with Victoria Fenn Alvarado. Victoria, you've been around the Cambridge area this morning. What was it like earlier in the morning compared to now?
Earlier in the morning, we saw snow. We are still seeing snow now. It transitioned a little bit over to more of a freezing pellet, but the snow's really coming down in big chunks right now. This is wet snow, and it's good to note that because I'm feeling like I am almost in a rain situation. I am damp. I am cold. Make sure you wear your waterproof apparel today, Chris. I guess you're in studio, so I guess you're keeping warm there. But actually, an interesting point. Take a look behind me. I started making some snowmen, or attempting to, which is what my goal was. And I just realized it only takes a couple seconds to build a snowball or a snowman. You literally just get down, and as soon as you start rolling, you can see it lifts up. Wow, I made this look a lot easier when I wasn't holding a microphone in my hand. And it just packs up into big chunks. You can literally just pack it up, and it becomes a big, huge chunk here. So we're gonna have a snowball fight out here at some point during this live stream. What about you, Matt Hamill? Is it packing snow where you are?
Well, it's quite painful snow. I like what you mentioned there, Victoria, about it almost having a rain-like quality. It is almost delving into that kind of freezing rain type of thing. It's very sharp snow. So the wind is certainly starting to become a factor. We know the breezy conditions will continue to be an issue. So visibility already not great, and I mean, if you see the tree behind me, the snow is starting to build up almost the way you would see kind of freezing rain accrete. So I would imagine, wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe some broken tree limbs as a part of this, because starting to already see the snow weigh pretty heavy. This heavy, wet snow, something that's not just going to be an issue for trees, but of course on the roads, the slick, the slushy conditions. That's the kind of system we're working with, and that's how things are looking right now outside the Weather Network headquarters here in Oakville.
Have you ever been to St. John's, Newfoundland? Because that wind sounds like you might be there right now. Wow. All right, Matt Hamill outside our studios. Nicole Karkic standing by to give you details on that, and Victoria will continue. So our live stream coverage here, this all to do with this developing and intensifying low pressure system, big wingspan. Been noticing some flight delays out of Atlanta. We got some showers and thunderstorms rolling across Georgia, Florida, into the Carolinas. On the backside of that storm, we've got winter storm and blizzard conditions into the Midwest, and likely flooding rains right up to the up towards the U.S. Northeast. So I'm going to be chatting about how things is going to impact Quebec and Atlantic Canada. We're also going to update you as well on the prairies, because we've got snow and plunging temperatures, and in BC, well, no shortage of weather there. But let's go to Nicole Karkic right now. Nicole, why don't we take care of business with Ontario? We've got rain, we've got snow, we've got the risk of freezing rain and winds. I mean, it's like everything but the kitchen sink being thrown at you.
It's a winter weather mashup. That's what I'm calling it. We've got a triple threat. I mean, the headlines are writing themselves with this. A Texas low has been moving across the states, causing big problems there. I'm talking tornadoes, blizzard warnings. For us on this side of the border, we're dealing with a multitude of precipitation types, and that's because of our temperature story. What side of the line are you on? That's the title of this. This pink line is our 0 degree line. Go above it, you're 0 degrees. Go below it, and you're above 0 degrees. So that determines what you are seeing as the day goes on. Notice so that line pulls north, and by this afternoon, evening, milder temperatures are moving in, and we're already seeing evidence of the milder air. On the radar right now, the blue, that's the snow. We're starting to see some mixing though, pink and green, just nosing in around Oshawa, Markham, Toronto. That's the signature on the radar currently. Maybe you're not seeing that down at the surface, but that is exactly what's going to start to happen as the day goes on. This is that kind of mild, slushy snow, and it can continue to fall. Now, Victoria has been in Cambridge, and you know what, Victoria, over the holidays, I was trying to ski up north, and it was terrible. I mean, it was fog, it was rain, and everyone was saying, oh, I wish it would snow. But I think sometimes when it actually happens, we're like, careful what you wish for, because now it's being delivered in spades. So I don't know what the feeling is like out there or what the roads look like, but maybe you can tell us.
For sure. I'm pretty sure someone asked Santa Claus for snow, and well, It's been delivered, I can assure you of that. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just the wet feeling that's pretty unpleasant. So if you can remain dry, honestly, I've been looking for people around here. I'm in downtown Cambridge to talk to. The streets are pretty empty. There are some officials, city officials cleaning the roadways. There's plows I've seen out. But along the 401 earlier this morning, traffic was starting to build. And we know the first major storm of the season across the GTA, we know how traffic can get. The OPP warning on Twitter to drive carefully. There are hazardous conditions, being the weather and the slippery conditions. Nicole, what I did notice mostly about this is just how slippery slush is. And we think ice is slippery, but slush is just as slippery too. So make sure you wear, all the waterproof apparel and something with grip. I have good grip on my shoes. I highly recommend you do the same because it just gets super slick. I could just go like this and slide down a hill so easily, especially on a pavement that perhaps wasn't salted. So make sure you salt your sidewalks, I should say, and maybe keep some salt in your car as well. Chris, the question is this going to transition to rain anytime soon? Because I've just been feeling the snow for multiple hours now.
Yeah, well, it was always suggested or forecast that it would start as snow before the transition to rain through the afternoon and evening hours. And in fact, for the city of Toronto, rainfall warnings have actually been issued. Victoria, I don't know, have you already booked a vacation somewhere, maybe a sunny, warm destination? And if you haven't, you think you might do it before today's over with?
I think I'm going to need to do that soon. I think I'm headed to Florida or something.
All righty. Well, we'll get you. Our live stream coverage continues here. We'll check in again with you, Victoria. I'm going to pick things up for Quebec because you too will be impacted by this storm system. So through the afternoon, you see that snow starting to swipe its way in across western regions from Mont Laurier down to Montreal. Light initially, but picking up through the evening and then through the overnight hours. While you're getting that snow now in Quebec City and areas north, Montreal towards Ottawa, that's when we start to see that transition from snow to rain. And there could be a few hours of ice pellets and freezing rain with it. Now, by tomorrow morning, and I got this right around the rush hour, it looks like it should be changing over to rain showers in Montreal. Note, though, as you go south and east of the St. Lawrence, so into the eastern townships, that'll change to rain, but stays as snow Quebec City, north to the Saguenay, through the Laurentians. So that's where most of the snow will occur. Through Wednesday night into Thursday, things will be settling down there, but we'll take a look at your snowfall total. So 10 to 15 centimeters for Montreal, south and east. Again, that risk of changing over to rain. North of there, it'll all be snow. So for the ski hills, that's 20 to 30 centimeters of snow. And I know, Matt Hamill, I'm sure you're a skier yourself. I think, is this the kind of weather that you've been just waiting for and longing for and dreaming about back in July and August?
Well, sure. I think we all said maybe not so thrilled about the lack of a white Christmas, but here we are in the new year, and Murph, it's coming down, and like Victoria was highlighting, it's the kind of day where if you are going to be outside as a pedestrian walking about, you have a couple layers on, but try to find a way to stay dry because it is that wet snow, and I feel I'm kind of soaked right now, and it's really just piling on with the additional snowfall, and it's really getting quite chilly. And temperature-wise, not the coldest day, right? I mean, we're generally above freezing for most of the day, kind of warming up into the evening when we see that transition to rain, but it is unpleasant out here, and I think it's just going to continue to be quite ugly, and, I guess we're going to maybe be waiting for that transition to rain. I think that would kind of be an improvement at this point, but I guess kind of an ugly weather day all around, Murph.
Oh, it's that east wind, which is about as unpleasant as root canal without the Novocaine. So thank you very much, Matt Hamill. We'll be checking in with you again as well. You want to be staying warm. Just wanted to touch on quickly Quebec. Wanted to show you that snow to rain mix over into Montreal and then back to sub-zero temperatures. So just like Victoria and Matt have been mentioning, it's these swings in temperatures making things very slushy, very sloppy, and potentially very icy as well. This storm system will also impact Atlantic Canada. I will get to that next, but Nicole, let's go back to you. A host of watches and warnings from northern Ontario and Quebec right down to the south.
That's right. When you see a lot of colors on the map, you know that there's a lot going on. So we have a rainfall warning. That's you, Toronto and Hamilton. That's the green. You go north, there's weather advisories. Then we've got winter storm warnings towards the north, snowfall warnings too. So a lot going on. And it's already started going. I mean, if you can stay home today, that's the day to do so. The radar currently showing that down in the southwest, we're seeing milder temperatures. So around winds are certainly switching over to rain, but go north of that and into the GTA and outside outside of our Oakville studios where Matt is. I mean, the snow is flying, slushy, wet snow. I'm not looking forward to wiping off my car as I'm leaving today. Also, we're getting a little bit of that mixing potentially soon across the lakeshore, and that will be the ongoing trend there. Let's look at how much snow we're going to pick up along the lakeshore here. Let's go Oshawa, Toronto, Hamilton, Oakville. That's about 5 centimeters of that slushy wet snow. Just go towards the 407, and we're looking at higher amounts. So you're not driving very far north to get to even close to 10 centimeters or more. Get into the purples, folks, and that's where we're seeing the back-breaking shoveling, because it's going to be up to 15 to 20 centimeters, again, of that heavy, wet snow. And we say heavy, wet snow all the time, thinking that people know what we're talking about, Victoria. But basically, heavy, wet snow is good for making a snowman. It's good for having a snowball fight, but it's not so great for shoveling snow.
I can confirm I've been doing all of the above over here. I tried to build a snowman, I made a couple snowballs, and we do have to shovel some areas in and around our car just for camera equipment and the snow off of our car. So I've been doing all of the above. I can confirm it's wet, heavy snow. Very cold conditions. Actually, not very cold, I should say. It's just the wind that's actually making me feel cold, and because I'm already wet, it doesn't help the situation. The streets here in Cambridge are pretty clear for the most part. I think a lot of people listened. We've been talking about this storm for multiple days, and we've been telling people, try to stay off the roads if you can. Try to work from home if you can, especially the first major storm of this season. But you know what? This isn't going to be the last system that we see. We are going to be seeing more even as early as next weekend. So make sure whatever you prepared for today, just keep that all ready in your car already. Now, sorry, I actually have someone to bring on here. I have a guest I wanted to bring on because I mentioned that I haven't been able to see anybody on the streets, but we have somebody here, a resident. His name's Mark Robinson. You might have heard of him. He's from the Weather Network. Hello, Mark.
Hello. I'm actually trying to get some temperature readings because you were talking about being a bit cold. We're actually sitting at about 1 to 2 degrees right now above zero, which is why we're getting this like heavy, wet, yuck snow. I mean, I can see just coating your coat.
You can see, as long as I'm out here, I just start to get more and more of accumulation on me, and then it starts to turn into just wet. It's just damp. It feels like I'm in rain, right, Mark? It's almost like rain.
Well, what we're getting is this is a low that's bringing up a lot of warm air from the south, like basically from the Gulf of Mexico. With that warm air, of course, comes the moisture. This is why we're getting potentially this heavy snow. At this time, we haven't really got the cold air really solidly in southern Ontario, so that allows that little bit of warm air to come up, which kicks it over towards rain. I know that Windsor, I just got a report from somebody on X or Twitter that it's pouring rain in Windsor. So yeah, it's kind of on our way. We'll see if it makes it to here.
Now, I was asking you just off camera about, how much snow has fallen here and how can I determine that? Because, we're starting to feel those ice pellets. We're starting to feel, see the snow melt on cars. So can you actually determine how much accumulation is here in this spot?
You have to be careful. You can use you just use a ruler. I mean, that's not that hard to do. But the issue is you can't just take it from anywhere. It's deeply unscientific to just start jamming it into the ground wherever you want, because you get a little bit of wind, it accumulates a little bit differently. So that's really, you have to sort of average out a couple spots where there hasn't been a lot of wind. It's been allowed to sort of come down and hit, because you could have, say, 20 centimeters of snow, but if you get a good drift of snow, it could be like this deep, and it's obviously not 3 meters of snow has fallen. So that's why we have to be a bit, you have to try and average it out a little bit. There are instruments that we use to actually properly determine it, and that way we can sort of give you an idea. Right now, though, after having said all of that, I think I'm looking at about 3 centimeters. We tried it on the other side of the hill where there isn't a lot of wind. So right now, I'm looking at 3 centimeters, maybe 4 centimeters, but again, heavy, wet snow.
And I'm almost starting to feel like it's more ice hitting my face right now. The wind is in my face right now. It's starting to feel more like ice. That could just go to show what temperatures we're experiencing too. All right, back to you now.
All right, Victoria and Mark Robinson, special guest Mark Robinson, that is. And we've been talking about these conditions here. We also want to give you an update on, this is from the Ontario Provincial Police, Sergeant Carrie Schmidt, who's always out there and talking about the road conditions, especially when the situation turns like it is today.
Well, we've got some active weather here in the GTA right now. We have rain and snow, some freezing rain. The roads are mostly wet. We're still just above the freezing mark. A lot of this precipitation is going to turn into mostly rain, but again, conditions can vary depending on where you are. So be prepared for slippery and wet conditions. We've got a rollover happening right now on the west end on the 401, a couple other crashes scattered across the area. Nothing significant in terms of injuries or closures, but again, just take your time. Make sure you have your full headlighting system on, know what's happening all around you. Use those mirrors and just be aware of your surroundings. Take care, drive safe, and be prepared for changing conditions. It's a bit of a messy drive today.
All right, thank you, Sergeant Kerry Schmidt of the Ontario Provincial Police. And you heard him talk about these temperatures. They are on the milder side. The wind doesn't feel warm, but as a result, we're getting that wet snow. So we go to Matt Hamill outside, and you can hear the wind.
Oh, Jesse.
Now, for Matt, you know if this was that dry, powdery snow with that wind, it would be whipping around everywhere. So I guess that's one of the plus sides, is that wet snow doesn't tend to blow like dry snow. But at this point in time, is that any consolation to you, Matt, as you stand outside bracing for that snow?
Well, it's a good point, Murph. The wet snow, perhaps not as much of a blowing snow concern, although visibility, looking at Highway 403 right to my right here, does not look great for those drivers. You see the windshield wipers are on. It's already kind of splashing, so there are some visibility concerns. But Murph, the wet snow is doing a great job of sticking to the one side of my face. I'm starting to feel kind of like Jack Nicholson at the end of that Stanley Kubrick movie. But it is mean, wintry conditions here, and it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition of what we'll see by the evening, right? And we heard Mark Robinson highlight some parts of Ontario already seeing the heavy rainfall, so it'll be quite a transition. But as for right now, Murph, we're still in the wintry mess part of it, and it's not fun to be outside. So if you can stay in, please do. And on the roads, extra caution, just like we heard OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt urge there.
Now, Matt, there's a shovel just around the corner from you. You'll see a blue Toyota. If you don't mind just shoveling around for me, man, that would be awesome.
All right,
before we leave. You got my back, right?
I'll keep busy while I'm off camera. Remember, I got you, man.
That's right. By the way, the snow brush is in the back seat, so thank you, Matt. Okay, let's talk about this. And also, when I come back, we're going to talk about Atlantic Canada, but also we got snow moving across the prairies and plunging temperatures and some strong winds and rough travel in BC. But let's go back. I mean, look at the wingspan on this thing, Nicole. This is a massive storm impacting anywhere from, say, Florida right up the U.S. East Coast, back to the Midwest and into Ontario. One of the components, of course, is the wind.
Absolutely. And I think our winds are going to keep getting stronger, but peak wind gusts over the past 24 hours coming in at 44 kilometers an hour for Toronto, 31 for Hamilton. And as far as our current visibility goes, we've got pretty good visibility down towards the southwest where we're seeing rain. So winds are London about 8 to 6, a little bit worse for Hamilton and Toronto at 3 kilometers. And so we've got some blowing snow, the slushy, heavy, wet snow. Not great to be on the roads right now. Wait for tomorrow if you can. If you can, right? Now, taking a look at our snowfall forecast here, look at these light blue colors. It's quite a gradient. It's like 50 shades of blue here because along the lakeshore, we've got about 5 centimeters for you in Toronto and Oakville. And then we move a little bit further north. We're just driving about a half hour and we've got 5 to 15 centimeters and then 15 to 20 in our purple. So higher elevation zones, areas that are a little bit further north of the 407. And that's because of the mild air starting to come in later this evening, changing over to rain for Toronto, London, Hamilton. You've got rainfall warnings even. In the north, we're staying as snow, however, and in some areas around Cottage Country, the ski hills, we've got a good amount of snow, and then we're going to end it off with some rain. But for, Blue Mountain, we've got about 5 millimeters of rain coming, so overall not too bad. This is quite a bit of snow, though. Imagine if this was staying cold enough that it was going to stay as snow. Sorry, we've got a good amount of rain. This is not staying as snow, so 20 to 30 millimeters for Toronto and Cobourg. And then we're going to be looking at much easier conditions for tomorrow. So Victoria, you're probably going to be enjoying tomorrow a little bit better, but I know you're having fun out there. You've been doing a great job tracking all this active weather. What's going on right now where you are?
My mascara is running. That's the first thing I must say. That's how I know I'm actually under the transition line. It is rain right now. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's actually light rain. Last time you saw me, it was just a few moments ago. It felt like snow and ice pellets. Now it has actually transitioned to rain in just that short span of time. And I feel it because my mascara is completely running. This isn't a glamorous job. I've been out for a couple hours enduring the elements so that you don't have to. And that's kind of the goal of this too, to show you some of the worst hit areas. Now, Chris, I'm not the only person experiencing this type of weather. Where else is going to be impacted by this?
Way northeastwards into Atlantic Canada. We covered Quebec. We will do it again. We're live streaming for another 45 minutes or so, and then we're looking at this storm system. So today is the calm before the storm across the Maritimes, Newfoundland and Labrador. But there are a host of watches and warnings issued by Environment Canada. A lot of these overlap. Like, for example, this wind warning in St. John. St. John, you're also under a snowfall warning and a rainfall warning. So New Brunswick is going to be hit hard by this storm. And these special weather statements in southwestern Newfoundland, that's to do with some snow and some strong winds. Those lace wet winds and wreck house winds will be howling 130 to 150 kilometers per hour. So certainly truck drivers do not want, or any high-sided vehicle, you don't want to be any part of this. You'll get blown clean off the road. All right, so there's your high pressure for today. That's departing. Here's the storm system. So tomorrow morning, you wake up in Fredericton, it's snowing. St. John, it's snowing. Up towards Edmundston, it's snowing. Now into Nova Scotia, inland areas, that may start as snow. Coastal areas, more likely rain. But for Halifax, this is heavy rain for you, 20 to 30 millimeters worth. This time of year, you don't need 50 millimeters or more to get a rainfall warning because of the situation on the ground. There could be also some uprooted trees because of the winds. Now you'll see that snow change over to rain likely in the afternoon in Moncton, St. John, Fredericton, Charlottetown. Northern areas, it will take a bit longer for that changeover, hence you'll get more. And then Wednesday night to Thursday, it'll be your turn in Newfoundland. So snowfall totals, highest amounts, Gaspé, northern New Brunswick, right down to about Fredericton, Woodstock, Doketown. That could, even Moncton could be about 10 to 15 centimeters of snow with higher amounts north of there. South of there, lesser amounts of snow because you're mainly a rain event. But the one thing too that I want you to absolutely be aware of is the wind. So that will be picking up through the morning hours of the southwest, spreading its way eastwards, widespread 90 to 100 kilometer an hour gusts. That is enough to knock the power out. And as I mentioned, those specialized winds, those lay sweat and wreck house because of the funneling from the topography could easily exceed that. Okay,
so Dave does a lot
when I come
more.
back, we'll talk about the prairies and BC because we've got some power outages, and especially on Vancouver Island. But let's go to Matt Hamill outside where the wind is just okay, so Matt, like I'm just going just by the audio. And I can't believe you're upright because of the sound of the wind. Is it really as bad as it sounds?
We'll see if me being upright kind of holds up throughout the duration of this broadcast, Chris Murphy, because, yeah, the wind is certainly the factor, right? We know that's going to be really lingering well into today. It looks like even into our day tomorrow. For our Wednesday, the winds will still be an issue, but right now the winds are combining with this needling wet snow. It's kind of piercing. I think an umbrella wouldn't be the worst thing for me right now. And if you are going out at home and you do have to leave your home or you're going to be out in these elements, not just dress warm like Victoria mentioned, but just have a way to sort of shelter yourself from the cold, the wetness, and then of course the wind is not helping the cause either. Now, as you can see, it's still really dealing with the snow right now, and it's that wet snow that we're talking about, and we know that transition to rain is on the way, but that looks like it'll be a far cry off of right now because we are still in this winter wonderland, and it kind of turned on a dime. I mean, driving into work, here we are at the Weather Network headquarters in Oakville. I drove in from downtown Toronto around 9 in the morning, and there was really no signs of any trouble, and we knew it was on the way, and here we are into the 11 o'clock hour, and like I mentioned, it's a winter wonderland. The winds are picking up. It is nasty with the capital N, the capital A, capital, you get the drift. Now we'll throw it over to Nicole back in studio. Nicole, I'm sure we're seeing things develop throughout the day, and ultimately we're not going to be dealing with this wet snow throughout the whole day here.
No, exactly. And, you know, we've had a lot of questions about exactly that. Will this snow affect the commute in the GTA today? So in answering that question, we've got snow and rain affecting the commute. Yes. So all over, I would say that traveling today, even when the rain does come in, it's going to be slow going, dicey. I mean, even when you get steady rain in Toronto, it slows things down when it's not much. And this has already been beginning as a messy situation. So the radar is indicating that rain is starting to nose in, that milder air, and we will be seeing through the morning commute. We saw the snow, right, for the evening commute along the lakeshore. That is going to be mostly a mix or rain. But if you're commuting around Vaughan or Aurora, this is staying as snow much longer into that afternoon commute. And for Orangeville and Peterborough, I mean, you're going to be having dinner even and be looking at that snow thinking, I got to shovel again, because there's about 15 to 25 centimeters left to go. Now, through this evening, as I mentioned, we've got the milder air and the rain. In fact, we even have a rainfall warning for Hamilton and Toronto. Towards the north, it's staying cold enough that it's staying as snow. But we also had this question from social media. Do you expect the roads to be clear tomorrow morning in Richmond Hill and Toronto? And yes, I do have some good news. As we're watching this system moving out, as it's been snow to start and the rain, as I mentioned, I mean, if you're just joining us, it's rain here in the green, and then all of southern Ontario gets into the rain tonight. As it shifts east, it's also moving north. So by tomorrow morning, as we look to the morning commute, Richmond Hill, Toronto, you are going to be drier. We're going to see some cloud cover, maybe some drips and drabs, much easier to get around. We're going to worry about a little bit of lake effect snow, though, coming in, and the winds today and tomorrow are going to be gusty. Is it a huge risk for power outages? No. At last check, I've got Matt Grinter behind me doing some stats. What was the last check for our power outages? It was a couple of hundred at last check, so not too bad right now. And, you know, this is certainly not the biggest wind event that we've ever seen. But if you're outside in it, I mean, you're hearing, oh, it's not so bad. But, yeah, when the snow and the rain is pelting you in the face and making your mascara melt, then it feels pretty bad. But, Victoria, through the winter, I promise you are going to be in storms worse than this. Oh, you got a handler.
You know what? This is one of the more interesting storms that I've dealt with. I've been through the squalls. I've been through the fluffy white snow when you feel like you're in a snow globe. This one's just miserable, in my opinion. If I'm being completely honest, stay dry out there. It has completely transitioned to rain at this point. I actually just took my gloves off. It's feeling quite mild, but because it's raining, you're just instantly damp and cold. I'm trying to debate whether I even keep my gloves on or not, because at this point, they're just soggy. Now listen, as this transitions into rain, we have more coverage coming. It won't be me, though. Mark Robinson, come join me for a second, please.
In the miserable?
Come join me in the miserable. You're going to watch Mark Robinson in his element chasing, but it's not. Is this storm chasing for you? You like tornadoes, but I know this is different.
This is just winter storms are just different, and they're a much higher level, and I'm going to use the meteorological term, yuck. These ones can be fairly high impact when you compare them to thunderstorms. With thunderstorms in the summertime, they hit very, isolated areas, a little harder to forecast for, so much harder to nail where they're going to hit, but when they do hit, they can be extremely high impact. With these storms, it hits a very large area, a little easier to forecast for, but they can be high impact because of how much they're hitting, and this is often is what happens. One of the issues with these kinds of storms, when you're talking about a place like Southern Ontario, a lot of people live in the area, so that slight change, if we're going from lots of snow versus rain, can have a big, different impact for different areas. So that is, why these storms can be just as nasty, but less enjoyable. I have a bias towards the summer storms. I will admit that.
Can you explain to me what we're feeling right now? Because
we're feeling yuck.
Yuck, that's for sure. But there's some moments when I get a wind gust and then it feels like ice pellets, but right now it feels like straight rain. So what's going on?
Well, it really depends on what the atmosphere is doing. So if we've got, a bit of warm air in the upper atmosphere, it depends on how thick that is. You'll get the ice crystals falling through that. So there's warm air that's a little closer to the surface. It melts. Now, if you do have a little bit of cold air, if you're sitting right at that freeze level, it's going to stay, it's going to stay liquid all the way down or turn to ice pellets. It really depends on what's above us, and it's a little bit hard to determine exactly what's above us. So that's why some of these forecasts become a little bit tricky, because we have to look right at that, what we call a phase change from liquid to ice crystals, and that is why we sometimes get it wrong. I'm gonna actually, let me speak for myself. Why I get it wrong.
You heard it from the meteorologist himself. Now, the ground situation, we're talking about ice pellets falling, but could this relate to the ground? Is the ground going to start getting slippery?
Oh yeah, I mean, the other thing is that we've been dealing with a very warm, there's the cold wind.
Yeah.
They were going to put that up there. No, I mean, one of the things is that because we've been dealing with a very warm December, the ground has still got a lot of heat, a lot of latent heat left in the ground. So a lot of, get a little bit of melting, but now that we're getting into those colder temperatures, that ground is now going to cool down enough that we're going to start seeing some serious accumulations, especially as we get a little bit further into January. And I'm looking at that Friday to Saturday storm, which has got me a bit concerned, because this is going to cool down the ground nicely, and then we're going to have that little bit colder storm, even though this feels so cold on this side of my head right now.
It's the wind.
Yeah.
It literally is the wind that we're starting to experience. Now, Chris, tell me a little bit about this wind situation, because we know the winds are going to start ramping up even until tomorrow, for example, too, right?
Yeah, these will be gusty winds. They're out of the east. That's why it's so piercing right now, but milder air will be working its way in. Nicole Karkic will have more on the details in Ontario, but I've been saying I want to talk about other parts of the country, including the prairies, because you too are going through a change, a bit of a metamorphosis as well, because winter has been MIA, but it's coming back. Now, first of all, you can see the leading edge of that snow from Grand Prairie over towards Edmonton, Lloydminster, into the Battlefords. Yeah, not yet in Saskatoon, but it's headed your way over towards Moose Jaw and Regina as well. So this is the snow. This is an Alberta clipper, and clippers generally bring, a bit of snow and then followed by colder air, and this one will do just that. So I'm going to pause it right around, the evening rush hour. Still some lingering snow around Edmonton, all the way down the Yellowhead Highway to Saskatoon, getting towards the Yorkton area. Note, much of areas in the south of there, not nearly as much snow. That will move its way eastwards towards Dauphin, the Brandon Interlake region, and that will be snow through the night and tomorrow morning. So you're going to pick up some pretty good accumulations as well. The other point I want to point out, look at these wind arrows coming out of the north by tomorrow morning. That is the Arctic front coming through Alberta and Saskatchewan. So tomorrow will be the beginning of some much colder air. I know it was very chilly this morning in Saskatchewan and southwestern Manitoba, but this will be the more sustained cold. So first of all, just the snowfall map here. A good 10, locally 20 centimeters of snow across central regions of the prairies. Lesser amounts to the south, lesser amounts to the north. So again, the Yellowhead Highway will outsnow the Trans-Canada Highway. And the winds will be blustery enough that there could be some blowing and drifting snow as well. I mean, it's cold in Saskatchewan, so this is not the wet snow that you're getting in Ontario. This is that more dry, powdery snow, susceptible to blowing around, means poor visibility. And you'll see those gusty winds moving into southwestern areas of Manitoba for Thursday. But the bottom line is that will also add a sting to the wind chill. So here's tomorrow's temperatures, daytime highs. Look at that, minus 20 in Prince Albert, minus 21 in Edmonton, and minus 18 in Calgary. Now let's fast forward to Thursday when the air gets even colder, and then when you factor in minus 25 in Calgary, with that wind, it is likely going to feel more like minus 36, and it could feel close to minus 40 in Jasper and Edmonton. So that's what you're up against, significant cold, and I think Friday could actually be rock bottom when it comes to our temperature. So yeah, I know it gets cold in the prairies every year, but this is the first time we've had it like this. Meanwhile, speaking from the first bout of the real cold to the first bout of a winter storm, we go to Oakville, Ontario, outside the Weather Network HQ, and we find Matt Hamill. And Matt, last time I was talking with you, the wind was howling and the snow was stinging against your face. Has there been any improvement since?
Yeah, that's the status quo right now, Murph, and right on command, I don't know if you had something to do with this, but a nice gust of wind has just picked up, and it's continuing to push this kind of sharp, wet snow, and not fun to be outside in. Now, of course, as a pedestrian, you can kind of read it on my face probably, not a very fun time, but for drivers as well, I can see Highway 403 kind of right adjacent to the Weather Network headquarters, and it looks like folks are taking it slow, which is definitely the move here. We know visibility is not great, and again, the blowing snow not as much of a concern because this is that heavy snow that kind of just sticks on contact, but it's also the slick conditions on the road. So I know a lot of people, by the looks of it, are taking it slow, and a good reason to do just that. So obviously there's those travel concerns, and then even once we get into the rainfall, some areas under those rainfall warnings could see that pooling of water, and that presents its own disruption in terms of our driving. Now, in terms of being out here, if you do have to go out, like Vic was highlighting earlier in the broadcast, layer up and make sure to stay dry, because that is the difficult thing right now, is the snow. It's hitting me, it's melting, and now I'm getting soaked, and I hope you can avoid my fate. Now, another one of my is out there in the snow. She knows our pain, and she's out there with Mark Robinson. Victoria, how are things going on your end?
Very similar to you, Matt. I'm starting to feel the wind, the cold, and of course the wet, damp conditions. Mark's been out with me. We're both soaking wet. We kind of look like wet dogs, but that's completely fine. We have more wow, sorry, it's been a long day. We have more live stream coverage coming up later this afternoon. Mark Robinson will be doing some driving around. Mark, where are you headed and what are you expected to see?
Well, I mean, first off, I'm going to say I'm pretty sure I don't smell like a wet dog, but yeah, no. The live stream this afternoon. I'm gonna take the easy way out. I'm gonna be driving, so I'm gonna be in the nice warm car the entire time, just to show. I want to show like the transitions. We were actually. I was actually expecting the transition to happen much later than what we've seen it here. So what I'm expecting for later on this afternoon is potentially the cold air wrapping around the low as it moves. So we may go from rain to snow to rain, as opposed to what I was originally expecting, which was snow to rain back to snow. So I'm going to try and take that drive, down the 401, maybe to the 410, just to try and sample this storm as it goes, as it moves through. And show why you maybe shouldn't be on the road, the way I am.
That's exactly what I was going to say too, because as much as you think that snow is a dangerous travel condition, so is rain. Rain is just as dangerous because you lose your visibility. It is slippery. You can start hydroplaning. That's one of the scariest driving conditions for me, actually. I personally rather drive in some snow than rain.
Oh, I've been in some serious rain. You would not like some of the rain I've been in. Well, actually, snow makes me a little bit nervous because like that, especially when you get that transition, because you may be going from relatively, got a bit of friction on the pavement with a bit of water on it, but if you get into those cold temperatures, now you could have a bit, get some ice in there. You're not expecting it. That's going to be the big, potential problem later on as we get into the afternoon and into the evening, and of course into tomorrow morning. A lot of this may be freezing because we are getting that cold air wrapping around the low and giving us those temperatures that begin to really drop into the freezing temperatures, and that tree is dripping right on us.
I was feeling the exact same thing. Definitely no sunshine in sight, as you can see behind us. It's been gray and dreary, and we know that the GTA has experienced so many gray and dreary days. Are we going to see sunshine anytime soon, Nicole?
Oh, I wish, but not now, of course. But as we look at where the visibility is good, it is actually where we're seeing the rain, even though, it is awful when you're driving in heavy rain. Winds are in London, better visibility than when we get into Toronto. Right now, Hamilton's actually reporting pellets. Toronto is still in the snow. If you're watching us on YouTube, Angela said, hi from Ottawa. Hello, you've got pretty good visibility right now. The snow is getting to you as the time goes on. And Georgina actually is in Belleville/Napanee on YouTube. She was saying that she can't even see the farm next door because the snow is kind of whipping around and blowing there. So it is sort of getting in towards that Kingston, Napanee area. But still, Toronto in snow. We're seeing that change over here in the southwest in Cambridge, where Mark was. I mean, he looked like he just had a shower. And as the day goes on, that start as wet snow is going to continue to change over to rain for many of us, especially along the lakeshore. And then it will continue to spread north and east. I do want to mention and point out that towards Ottawa and Montreal, we are going to see overnight tonight the risk of some freezing rain, some ice pellets as well, before it does transition to rain for you in Ottawa and Montreal too. But Quebec City, this is staying as snow. So here is where we could see some slick sort of conditions conditions. Although what's interesting is that we're going to see that starting to snow from Montreal. So as the ice kind of coats it and the ice pellet's going to be that kind of crunchy situation as you're walking to work or school or what have you tomorrow morning. Now, a look at what we're seeing in terms of snowfall. Purples represent higher amounts. So north of Cobourg, towards the Dundalk Highlands here, we're looking at 15 centimeters, maybe even more. But in areas around Toronto where we're seeing the changeover and where we've already seen the changeover like Hamilton, it's closer to about 5 centimeters, maybe under that, and then go to the 407, we could be shoveling 5 to 15 centimeters. We do have to point out that it's the heavy wet snow. So in Peterborough, when you're grabbing your shovel, maybe just keep in mind that you want to watch your back because it's going to be that back-breaking, heavy kind of snow. Take shifts with your partner perhaps, or just do it when it comes. Good exercise, I suppose. Towards northern Ontario, it's starting to fill in and it's staying as snow. In some locales, we could be picking up close to 40 centimeters. And by the way, just this is it's not about what we're talking about today, but just a quick heads up that the next storm we're tracking coming in for the weekend in southern Ontario and Quebec looks like, Chris, it's supporting some colder air. So this round could be just straight up snow.
Yeah.
2024 coming in with a bang.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, the real frigid air from the prairies is going to help charge up that storm system as we head Friday to Saturday. Thank you, Nicole. I'm going to now begin in the West Coast because we've been dealing with some strong winds. Yesterday morning, of course, it was that snow, even in the lower elevations. Well, those freezing levels have since risen. We've had showers, heavy rain, peak wind gusts. Victoria International, 89 kilometers per hour down by the 80 down by the harbor, almost 90K. And we do have some wind warnings in place for Greater Victoria and the southern locales of Metro Vancouver. So around, Surrey and Langley, Delta and Richmond, for example. Right now, feeling about 54 kilometer-an-hour wind gusts in Victoria. Abbotsford's been bouncing around between 50 and 60 kilometers per hour. So it is gusty. It is gusty. And there could be some ferry delays and cancellations, possibly. I mentioned power outages, about 20,000 customers without power, most of them on Vancouver Island. The wind will still be an issue through South Vancouver Island, so the Wandafuka Strait, coastal areas of Vancouver itself until about later this afternoon. Then those winds should start to ease and into the evening hours. The rain also at times a little on the heavy side, possibly even a thunderstorm or two is not out of the question. Again, most of this will ease off tonight into tomorrow, and the strong winds and the heavy snow impacting travel in the mountains. So near blizzard conditions for the Coquihalla Highway, Allison Pass. It's going to be unpleasant across the Kootenay region as well. The snowfall warnings, which were earlier in place for the Okanagan Valley, so we're talking about Kelowna and Penticton, well, at least they're over with. But what's up next is the frigid air that's coming Friday, and my goodness, you're going to have to be bundling up for that. So temperatures well below seasonal. That's in BC. Let's get you over towards Ontario where, yes, Victoria. I know, I'm talking about wind chills in the west, but you're dealing with wind chills and snow. And this is not the gentle snow globe kind of snow that everybody dreams about on Christmas Eve. This is a painful kind of snow.
Yeah, this is an odd one. And as it's transitioned to rain, take a look at this bench here. I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, maybe this is a good representation of maybe perhaps how much snow has fallen. But look, as the raindrops go in, it's starting to melt. And this is almost like a foreshadow as to what's going to come to our roadways as well. And as the temperatures drop, that could start to get even more slippery, more freezing, more dangerous. So just be careful out there, especially as Mark and I were saying, there is going to be rain on the way too, and that makes for dangerous travel conditions as well, just as bad as snow in some cases. So for your evening commute, be aware if you did have to work, if you could work from home, today was the perfect day to work from home. My job doesn't allow it. This is me working from home right now, I guess. But, as we continue to track this system, like I mentioned earlier, this isn't the first time you're going to need the snow brush. It's not the first time you're going to need your snow boots, your winter tires. So as long as you have yourself prepared, you should be good because we are going to see another system very soon. And I heard Chris Murphy say frigid temperatures and I instantly was cringing because right now I'm starting to get warm and I can only imagine this weekend we get an abundance of snow. That might be a little bit more of the fluffy kind of snow if it is cold outside. Right now, as as time progresses, it's continuing to rain, and it's raining even more heavily. I don't know what that means for the rest of our line. Mark was talking about how we're underneath the transition line, and I wanted to ask you a little bit about the transition line, because are we completely over this transition line? Because as I stand out here, it's just rain right now, no? Like, that's what it feels like.
Like, I'm going to take a quick look literally at my radar right now, which can just sort of gives me a basic idea of where we're seeing sort of the rain versus the snow. Yeah, it's sort of back and forth right now. What's been really interesting with this is we have seen it switching from rain to snow to rain to snow to rain to snow.
Yeah.
And that does tell me that we're sort of sitting right, that warm air is kind of getting in here and it's fighting the cold air a little bit. But this has kind of been like rain, I think, about like almost full rain for like what, about the last 10, 15 minutes, I would say?
Yeah, it's been at least 15 minutes of just constant rain. We did kind of move off a hill, so now the winds are a little bit less too. I don't know if that's just because we changed our position or not. Yeah. We're a little bit more covered here, but these are the perfect conditions to stay inside, Mark.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right.
No, I'm gonna recommend, if you don't have to go outside, do the work from home, call in sick. I mean, it's too late now. It's kind of the middle of the day, but so the one thing though that does concern me a little bit is the cold air that's sort of wrapping around this low may kick a lot of this very soaked snow, so very wet snow, over into ice, especially as we get into that evening. So really watching that evening commute to see how bad that's going to be. Now, the one advantage is the plows have had lots of time to treat the roads, so it's not looking at it's quite as bad as it, a quick snap over to rain. So we do have a little bit of work going on there, but either way, please be careful when you're headed home from work.
You know what grinds my gears, actually? When people... Sorry, I just thought of this as you were talking about wet snow on cars. Last year, I had a situation where there was a truck or car or whatever in front of me, and a sheet of ice fell off the back because they neglected to remove it, and it ended up cracking my windshield. If you have any sort of slush, snow, anything on the roof of your car, on the front hood of your car, on the back of your car, trucks, cars, doesn't matter what size, please clear it. It's super dangerous when you get behind someone who has snow and slush coming in your face.
Yeah, and be careful. I mean, like the big trucks, the 18-wheelers, sometimes it's very difficult for them to clear it off. So be careful around those trucks. Remember, when those chunks of ice or snow come off, it doesn't necessarily come straight off the back. It can come off to the sides. So just be aware. No looking at your phone, no texting, like especially this time. Just be aware of those things that can happen. Doesn't look like a lot of that's going to be soaked right now, so you're not going to see that as much. But just be aware when you're on the highway.
For sure. Now let's send it back to Matt Hamill, because Matt Hamill, you're also working from the outdoors as we are too, right? How are you feeling out there?
Well, probably about as good as you guys are feeling. Now, one thing I'm starting to feel right as you throw to me is the winds are really starting to pick up. When we started this broadcast at 11 o'clock, it was breezy, and that was part of the misery of being out here. But now the winds are really getting stronger, and those gusts are palpably more difficult to deal with. It's even getting difficult to speak because just how cold it is, that wet snow hitting you and instantly just really will make you cold. Now, of course, right now we're dealing with the wet snow. That is something we expect for the initial thrust of this system. It began in the morning for much of southern Ontario. Some areas have already transitioned over to rain, but the wet snow is still something very much a factor here at the Weather Network headquarters here in Oakville, Ontario. So as you can see, starting to build up. There's a good amount of snow in the parking lot. It's one of those days where if you forgot to kind of flip up your windshield wiper blade, make sure you go do that, because it might be a pretty difficult way to get home from work when we're talking about. Look at now, I've got a joiner out here.
It is a little windy out here, Matt. I figure you could probably use some company. You're doing such a great job out here, and you mentioned the winds have been coming up a litlittle bit. Yeah, you can feel it. It's that stinging, unpleasant, raw, damp wind.
So I wasn't lying. You're verifying that it is in fact that unpleasant out here.
Yes, although you probably don't always want me as the source of verification, but be that as it may. And yeah, you can feel it. It's not the big, fluffy, kind of snowflakes we dream about on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, no doubt. It's kind of a unique situation. It's sort of an odd type of precipitation, this needling snow. I can't really tell you how many times I've had to contend with this, and I know some folks are, if they're going to be like us out here on foot, not a great luck of the draw, and of course driving, there's some concerns as well.
Well, for sure, and you want to make sure you brush your entire car off, right? Like just scraping away that little window there, the eye part for the window in the front windshield. Oh my goodness, you're not kidding. It's stuff like right in your eyes. I should have borrowed Mark Robinson's storm goggles. But yeah, you want to clear off your entire car for that. It will be changing over to rain showers further north in higher elevation, so away from the lake shores of Ontario or Erie. This could be more. If you're in Sudbury or North Bay, you don't have to worry about this. It's a good old-fashioned snowstorm for you.
Yeah, no doubt. And you can feel how cold it is, and the temperature is really not that remarkably low, but really what it feels like with the winds, with this wet type of snow, this wet precipitation, this icy kind of feel, certainly is making for a frigid feel out here.
If you are in Fredericton, St. John, Moncton, I hope you're watching and enjoying this, because this is headed your way tomorrow. It's going to be snow in the morning, rain in the afternoon, very windy. I've had stronger winds there than here. And so we're sharing the love when it comes to the wintry weather. Ontario's not going to hog it all.
I appreciate the support,
All
Chris.
right,
We'll
man.
throw it back to Nicole now.
Little duo. I don't know. I think this is the thing, guys. Chris, he just can't not be a part of the action. He loves it. Now, looking at our current conditions, this really tells the story. Hamilton right now is a 0, so we're seeing some ice pellets, some mixing in that vicinity. London, Windsor, you are just straight rain, warm enough for that. William on YouTube said he's in Milton and it is steady snow. We're still seeing snow in Toronto as you're holding on to that 0 degrees. We are still looking at the radar returning some pretty impressive rates though, and the sideways rain, sideways snow is just kind of yuck out there, whatever word you want to use. We answered this question earlier from social media. Will the snow affect the commute in the GTA today? Well, yes, it is. It will continue to do so as the day goes on, but it won't be snow all day. It will turn over to rain, as we've been talking about here, and especially along the shoreline of Lake Ontario. That's going to sort of transition over first before that rain line starts to move north. But it's going to take a little bit longer for you to get into the rain if we're talking about areas in the GTA, like Vaughan, for example. And then you go up to Orangeville and Guelph, and you're holding on even longer to the snow. So when all is said and done, about 5 centimeters for Toronto. We've got Vaughan about 5 to 15, Orangeville, Guelph, Peterborough about 5 to 15 centimeters, maybe even 20, and go north of that and possibly even more. So it's such a gradient of who's seeing what, because we're just flirting with temperatures around the freezing mark. We're also going to see those wind gusts picking up through today and tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be much easier to travel around Victoria. And I know a lot of people are interested in this story for today. You've been doing a great job outside. I wonder if you're seeing anyone traveling and if you can get a sense of how the roads are looking for people.
Yeah, I was actually just taking a look behind me there. The roads are starting, I mean, if you asked me about an hour ago, it was pretty empty. Now we have like some cars parked on the side. We got some cars coming down. They are moving. They are slow moving. I have seen plows out. I've seen salters out, and they're out there doing their job. That way we can avoid any collisions. You do see some cars though. There's one going by right there. They have some snow. They obviously cleared it off. And there are cars in the parking lot that had plenty of snow on them. People were clearing them off, but now as it starts to rain, the snow is actually starting to melt. So maybe when you get out of work, it'll all be melted by then. But if you do have any snow, be sure to clear it off. The roadways, because they salted them, Nicole, they're super salty. Super salty. Of course they're salty, but they're super wet and slippery, and it's slush. I was saying earlier that ice is slippery, but so can slush, and I know this from personal experience because I've certainly fallen on ice or slush before. I also love how passionate we all are about our jobs, and I just wanted to tell Chris that that's amazing that you went outside, because you got to feel it. You work for the Weather Network, and we all do, right, Mark? Mark's drying off and getting ready for his next
I just got out of the shower.
So this live stream has been great, and we have another live stream coming up very shortly too. Mark will be involved in the next couple hours. He's getting dry. I'm gonna have to start drying off myself because being out here, I'm wet, I'm soggy, I'm cold, and now I'm just, yeah, it's yuck. It's yuck.
That's the meteorological term for it. This is yuck.
All right, Matt Hamill, do you think that it's yuck too where you are? Because Mark's saying yuck, I'm saying yuck. Chris Murphy, is he still there? He might be saying yuck too.
Yeah, I think the jury's in, and this is just not very pretty weather. And we've seen over the course of the hour, I think conditions, at least here in Oakville at the Weather Network headquarters, kind of deteriorate in terms of the winds picking up. That's made it a bit more nasty to be out here in. And I'm seeing these cars driving on Highway 403, and it looks like not the quickest rate of driving here. And I think taking it slow is going to be something a lot of folks have to do with this phase of the storm when we're talking about all of the wet snow. And of course, rainfall is on the way, and that'll give us a bit of a different look. And who knows, maybe all this snow that we see here, once that rain comes along, might be tough to hang on to a lot of this snow. But that's how things have been shaping up here at the Oakville headquarters here for the Weather Network. It's been the wet snow. It got going just after 9 o'clock, and here we are. And getting towards the noon hour, and of course getting closer and closer to that transition over to rain. But I'll tell you what, if you drew the short straw like me, Victoria, or Mark, or hey, even Chris Murphy came out here, you can definitely tell not fun weather to be outside, but a little nicer in there in the studio. Isn't that right, Nicole?
Yeah, I'm a bit hot in here, Matt. Just kidding.
I don't want to hear it. No, just kidding.
No, you've been doing a great job. Thank you for being out there. We had another question that I want to show you. Someone asking on social media, we are supposed to get 3 snow events. This being the first, when is the next event supposed to hit Ontario? Okay, let me quickly break this down for you as we wrap up this live stream. I've got a few minutes left. So yes, we're dealing with today. We've got the snow. We've got the mixing. We've got the rain. Toronto, that's 5 centimeters. Go north, it's 5 to 15. And then purple, that's our higher amounts. Also, keep in mind that later today, as temperatures get mild, we're going to be dealing with rain for Toronto, Niagara. Already seen that change over for the Niagara area to rain, so that's just going to continue through this evening. So this system is number 1. We're dealing with tricky travel all day today, and then through tomorrow it does start to clear out, but it is going to be windy as it departs, and we could see a little bit of lake effect. Then I do want to mention that on Thursday, we've got a clipper system coming through, dropping about 5 centimeters across southern Ontario. And for the north, we'll see some snow as well. But the third storm is the one that has me most interested and intrigued, and I think a lot of forecasters here at the Weather Network and everywhere else looking at this in Ontario and Quebec. The third system coming through Saturday into Sunday is pulling in some cold air. The polar vortex is waking up. It's saying hello. So we have colder air to work with. So our major cities, Toronto, Ottawa, Quebec, this third storm on the horizon looks like it could be quite a winter storm, pretty decent. And also in the wake of it, we'll see some lake effect snow. Now, this is still a few days out, so we're going to fine tune the forecast for you. But because of that cold air coming in and moisture, it is going to feel like winter is really finally here. Look at this cold air being unleashed across the province of Ontario. Coldest air of the season so far. Temperatures that are below seasonal too. So as we take a peek at our 7-day forecast across Toronto, you can see here temperatures are starting to dive. It's quite a slide down to just a high of minus 10 degrees on Tuesday. Now we've got a lot more to talk about here as our live stream continues. Barrie's 7-day forecast as well, looking like a rain-snow mix on Wednesday, but also that slide down. So each and every day, it's like we're just shifting into more wintry conditions. And Victoria, you have been doing a great job out there in Cambridge. I know you're going to be traveling to conditions that are even worse than what you had to deal with already. Can you tell our viewers who are going to continue watching us through the day what's on tap?
As of right now, we're just looking for the most impacted locations, the most impactful precipitation, between snow, rain, like you said, mixed bag, we've seen it all. So Mark, I believe, is headed to Brampton. I'm going to continue to keep a watch as to what I'm doing right now, but it seems like people are coming out. Take a look behind me, this gentleman building a snowman. I did just talk to him and ask him what he was doing, and he just said, well, I haven't seen packing snow in a while and just wanted to build a snowman. And so hopefully you can enjoy what's left of your day, I guess. And if you do have any snow, make the best of it. sorry, I was just thinking, because I'm looking at what's to come and I'm expecting just more rain, and I feel like I need to dry off, get into a dry place, change my clothes. It's a good idea to have some spare clothes with you. Mark Robinson said he has 4 jackets with him. I brought 2, so maybe next time I'll bring a couple more jackets with me, but plenty more coverage here at the Weather Network, so stick around with us. Nicole, where should I go?
I think you need to go to the higher elevation. You need to go up to the mountain peak.
Yeah?
To get the snow. I mean, yeah, you're going to find it. You're going to find the active weather, because we're going to continue to live stream through today. We've been doing a great job here with Matt outside of Oakville Studios. Victoria's been in Cambridge. She's going to continue to travel. We're continuing to track this storm, folks. Our coverage continues. So many questions are still coming in, and we're wrapping up this hour here. So continue to ask them on social media, on YouTube. We are watching them. We are going to record them, and we will make sure that they get answered throughout today. And we'll continue to provide you with all of the information that we can. We are so excited here. We've been waiting for winter all December at the Weather Network, and it's finally showing up with this big Texas low. And as it's been tracking through, it's got lots of surprises for us. So that wraps up our storm coverage. Thanks for joining.